to position your software house among other million other software houses. Great discussion with both of these guys. Enjoy the webinar.
So I will hide this little thing here at the bottom. Okay, cool. So as we've already established, the point of this session is to understand how to position and sell better as a software house. And as we also already established, but for the people that have just joined, my background is in a sort of a marketing / software house, you could say. We made some software as well and stuff, whatever, before. And now I have a CRM company. It's a CRM that fills out itself versus the system you might be using that is pretty manual. Ours pulls data from your emails, your phone calls, your meetings, and web tracking and email tracking, databases, email signatures. It basically lives by itself. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or email. Email is probably the worst way to reach me. If you're watching this, I would recommend you to send me a connection request on LinkedIn and specify that it's from this webinar, because otherwise I probably ignore it. Just to start off with a funny one, this is a very general example of what can be wrong. So I'll quickly read it. It's someone saying that they're interested in cooperation with companies, la la la. And then Mick Griffin, the person, you will see a lot of examples of Mick Griffin. He gave me permission to use what he's often sharing on social media in my presentation. So he says, what about my product makes you think we're a fit? And the guy doesn't even know what the product is that Mick is selling. And then he asks, and he keeps insisting that he would like to know what the product is, instead of making a very easy click on Mick's face and finding out. He just does not care to know first what his customer is in. And that's, I think, summarizes a big part of the problem. And we'll go into that in a moment. What we'll cover in a bit of structure is the problem in different steps. This is different steps in chronologically, the steps probably you should take to up your sales. It's one, focusing on the right leads. Second, building up a bit of proof, that because that's going to be hard if everybody's kind of bringing the same message. Then first you need to find a sort of exclusive message and then build a proof for it. Because, for instance, I get people contacting me for software development every day. My main action I take is archive the email or ignore the LinkedIn connection request, because it's just so many. It would tire me if I would have to respond to every one of those. So getting your foot in the door, next step after you have these things together, is something we'll look into. And then when that all worked out, following up and closing these deals actually. This is also something that is extremely important, because the leads that you get then, you should try to maximize the amount that you can close. And we'll go into how I would recommend you to do that. So to start off with the first point, unless there's already questions, I still see 4 questions. So I guess I'll just move on. So targeting the right leads, I think, is the very basic first problem that should be attacked. Where this often starts, and I think most software houses kind of have this down, they have decided on their tech stack, simply for the reason that you cannot offer everything. If your developers do everything in JavaScript, you will not start offering Java development. That just doesn't make sense. So this step is mostly in place, and it is a very important thing to do. And very close from here there's the Kronos Group. It's the locally here the biggest IT company, and they basically set up a structure in such a way that they have companies for every tech stack and sort of application, and they make a specialized IT company for each, and each specialized IT company basically goes through the exercise that we're going to go through in a moment, and focuses very specifically on a certain tech stack, application industry, because that works well. So, like I said,
Damian, this is, I just have a question. This is something that a lot of Soda members do, or you guys also in the software house? Did you choose like a particular stack, or it's everything, doesn't matter who comes, or how do you see this as a software house?
It depends. Yeah, I think it depends. It usually starts with a bunch of people who gather together. There are some IT guys and they have the specific tech stack and they keep it. And they switch only in they have clients. For example, let's say I have 5 JavaScript developers. This is my core team as a small company, and I'm growing. And I see that we are strong in this technology and we can get clients. But sometimes clients, they need more. So they need some Ruby on Rails or Python. And this is the decision from the company if they are willing to extend in the tech stack or they are willing to keep the JavaScript and give this lead away to some other company. So it's usually about the strategy of the company, if we are focused on tech stack or something different. Right now, it's different per company. So for example, we have Codibly from Krakow. They are focused on the industry, so energy and utility. And they have plenty of technologies behind that. So that's one thing. On the other side, we have STX Next, Python Powerhouse. That's how they call themselves, Powerhouse from Poznań. So they are fully focused on Python and they don't care much about the industry. But yeah, it helps them a lot because it's easier to trigger clients who are looking for Python only. Yeah. So I guess it's by case, depends on the strategy of the company, and quite a lot depends on the origins of the company.
Yeah,
got it. Thanks.
Like Damien said, and you don't have to necessarily, like Damien said, combine it. But I think the narrower you go, the better. Is the second thing is to focus on a specific location and industry. You don't go selling all over the world. That makes your life more difficult. You choose a specific region. Let's say you say, oh, I'm going to focus on France or something. The easy thing there is if you focus on a certain location is that, and maybe even more specifically within France, take a region or something and then say, okay, I have one customer there. I'm going to expand there. The chances are higher that these people know each other. And that they will recommend you. And if a few people recommend you, that makes your position way stronger. You can also use this when you approach people. You can say, we already work for that company that is in the same city, which gives a lot of confidence. And you can use it when you go there. That's obviously easy then because you can visit multiple customers at the same time. And you can even do something like organizing meetups. So there's a lot of value in choosing a location. And secondly, there's a lot of value, and that's actually in the company I used to work. That was a digital marketing consultancy, you could say, for pharma. The reason why we got in very easily in pharma because we focused on pharma. Other agencies would go to the pharma companies and try to nail down a problem, while we understood all the problems already because we had solved it already for another company. And this gave us an enormous step ahead versus the other ones because our expertise was already so much deeper that we could skip that step and actually start focusing on solving the problem the proper way. In the survey, when we perhaps share the presentation later, you can click this link. But it's a survey by a LinkedIn contact of mine. He did a survey towards companies, like what they're looking for in an agency, and expertise in the industry was the top thing that came out. for them to choose an agency. Third step, and that is if you can go even further, it's focusing on a specific pain. Because you might have said we're choosing this stack and then we're focusing on that industry and stuff, but then you need to figure out, is there a specific thing that we can solve? Again, that will make it easier to focus on the right companies, and I'll get into that. Yeah, this is
when we are talking about pain, we are more talking about let's say maybe some people have problems with, I don't know, QA, right? Like they cannot find.
Yeah.
So in this sense, right?
Yeah, in that sense. I'll get to it on the next slide. This is an example of how not to do it again. This person here says, oh, we do projects, waiting for a positive response. He says, I don't have a positive response. He says, okay, thanks, I have a project for me. And then he asks, like, how do you think, like, what can you improve? And he has no idea what he can improve. So that's sort of, if you go to a client and you say, we can do stuff for you, and the client says, okay, but what can you do for us? And you have no idea. That's what we're going to try to find out here. So there's a few examples I listed here, but there's obviously way more. There's companies that don't have an in-house mobile developer, and they want to make a mobile app. They might not want to hire someone, so they'll outsource it. That's something you could focus on. There's companies that are scaling really fast and just can't hire developers fast enough. Or they need to have a prototype made. That's not on the list, but that's also a possibility. They don't have a technical co-founder in a startup, so they need to fill that gap somehow. They've made something, but the UX is really crappy and they want to have a proper next version. Or at some point they're stuck with some technology and they want to upgrade it, they want to replace it. Those are the pains you could have, or you could have an issue with QA and you need someone to take care of that. That's all possible. The advantages of this is that you can actually target on companies who have this pain. And I listed a few possibilities. Like if you're looking for companies that have some mobile development needs, then you could look, for instance, on g2.com, which is a software review website. You could start looking for companies where the reviewers complain about the mobile app. When you find one, you can use that as your foot behind the door. Let's say you can contact the company and say, okay, I see customers are not super happy with your mobile app. We do mobile development services. We have already done work for this company, and we're happy to help solve the problem. This is a big advantage when you start focusing like this. There's a few other examples, like if you say, I can't hire fast enough, you could look for companies that just raised funding. So they just got a lot of money to hire people, but it just cannot go fast enough. There's a few more examples here in this list. When we share the presentation later, you can probably check that out. And then also, depending on the issue you're trying to solve, for you as a salesperson, you'll also have to get in contact with someone different. These are just indicative here, but it's sort of to try to show that it's not always the same person you reach for if it's another problem. If there's no in-house mobile dev, then the CTO will probably want to take care of that. If there's no technical co-founder, then there is probably no CTO, so then you will have to reach the CTO. And if it's a product problem, then you might want to focus on the head of product, which might also be the CEO, because if you go to the CTO, that they'll maybe think that they can solve it internally, while the head of product might have another idea about that. They might say, okay, we need to fix this, but I know that our internal folks will not be able to do this.
What we saw working with software houses, and that this part is a little bit ignored, And I know that it can be hard, this thing, but what we started to coach and mentor our software houses is to start making business cases. But these business cases might be totally different for depending on the people in those organizations. Especially when these organizations get more enterprise, you need to they have different pains. Has your solutions are totally different. So I would urge you to look into what are you solving, but also what are you solving for that specific person in that organization, because they would look at it totally differently. I don't know if, Damian, you have some insights here, but what we see is that if we send it to a CTO, we totally focus on different things. Then if we send it to a CEO, or if it's a product guy that later on will pitch our whole software house service to the decision makers, which can be the CEO. So it's very important to also understand the dynamics of those people within that organization and which has which pain.
I totally agree, because you have different people in the organization and they have different goals. For example, for the CEO, the goal is more strategic, to look into the organization from the top of it and to look at the external tech team as some kind of resources that helps them achieve the business goals. But for the CTO, for example, it's more about, I don't know, bringing the product live, making it faster. So he will have different parameters when choosing the partner, the software house. And yeah, if you want to sell to the company, you always have to think about the person you are selling to, or sometimes you are selling to two people. So I had a situation when during the meeting there was a director of engineering and CTO, and there are two completely different roles. And when you start talking to these guys, they transparently tell you what's their goal, why they are looking for the software team, and they have different reasons for picking up the software team and different criteria. And if you listen carefully, you can win both of these guys, because if you will just convince one of them, you might lose the sale. So
exactly. Cool. Thanks for that insight, Damian.
Shall I move on?
Yeah.
Let me check. So I just went through a few things to figure out. Now, one of the ways you can figure this out is by interviewing your current customers. This obviously only works when you already have customers. When you're just starting out, it's somehow a decision you need to make, or you could do some customer research before you start, like in a SaaS company like Salesflare. This is actually something that is heavily recommended. Is to interview potential prospects with the issue you will be solving, to find out whether it's actually an issue, validated, and then as soon as you sort of create the software, that you go back to them and say, look, you said this is your issue, did we solve it? I don't know whether that exactly is applicable to software houses as well. But if it is, then you should certainly try it. But if you already have customers, then for sure there's a lot of value in asking them questions. I personally did interviews with our top 40 customers in December. We looked at the customers that were happy, bringing us a lot of revenue, been with us for a while, and all this kind of stuff. Using the software actively, and we did a whole interview on covering some of the things here. But this is obviously like, what tech stack do they have is not something I asked. It's something that is more for you to ask. But we tried to map the whole process of why they chose Salesflare, what they enjoy about it, what they think can improve, and where they see us going, etc. In an interview. Now, if you're doing it, it's good to understand who are your customers, what tech stack, industry, location. This will inform you towards the things I said earlier. The pain they were having. how they got in touch with you, and why. And a very interesting one, why they decided to hire you over others, because that might give you very good indicators of what makes you different and inform your positioning. And it's also good to use as testimonials, obviously, which we'll get into in a moment as well. Now, I talked about this whole process of how they got to choose Salesflare. There's and this is from the Rewired group, from Bob Moista, and I forgot the name of his partner. These are the guys that started the whole jobs to be done thing together with Clayton Christensen, in case you've heard about this. And there's basically 4 forces working on a decision process. There's on the solution side, there's the present that is broken and it pushes you to go somewhere. There's the pull because of an expectation of something way better. But then on the other hand, there's also things pulling people back towards where they currently are. And that's one, just keeping things the way they are, like the habit of this is how things are. And secondly, being afraid of going to the new situation. And on the slide, there's a few questions with which you can bring out these forces. It's extremely interesting to understand what happens in the mind of a customer at the moment that they decide for you. So if you do customer interviews, I would certainly also recommend to include these 4. If you want to read more about these topics, the second book is great. Competing Against Luck is basically a book on jobs to be done. And the first book is great as well if you're looking for a methodology of how to do your positioning step by step. Because normally you sort of, what they recommend in marketing is that you fill out this positioning statement. If you want to know how to fill out the positioning statement and how to step by step understand this and nail it down, then the first book is a total recommendation as well. Do you guys have something to add on the topic or questions? Or
not at this point.
No. Positioning for us is extremely important. You can imagine there's by latest count 600 plus CRMs in the market. It's very hard for us to find our position there. We position ourselves, as you can see on the left there, as a simple yet powerful CRM for small businesses selling B2B. And our value proposition is that you will have less work and more sales. Less work because the data input is automated, and more sales because the data that you have there will make that you can organize yourself better and sell more. This makes that we can actually have successful results. It's still an uphill battle to sort of compete with these companies that are 100 to thousands of times bigger than us, and that's to be taken literally. Hundreds or thousands of times bigger, but we can at least take on the battle because we focus so much on positioning it correctly and understanding what our customers want. Then a second step, when you know who, where, what industry, how, all these kind of things, then it's important for you to build up some proof and credibility. There's a few things you can do. I'll just quickly run through some ideas for you. You can build up content, like Romeo is doing here with a webinar. You could organize webinars around a specific topic that sort of answer questions that people generally have, and put you in the spotlight as an expert around the topic. But it doesn't have to be webinars. It can be that you write articles It can be that you write articles with opinions. It can be that you describe what you've done for customers and put them in the spotlight, while also showing how your collaboration worked. It can be that people have questions on how to attack something, and you give them a step-by-step approach. That's like sort of feed them the answer. You could write an ebook or a guide. There's a whole lot of possibilities content-wise. What is very important is to gather as many testimonials as possible. Testimonials are extremely powerful, especially, like said before, when they come from a similar location or the same location and industry, because then you can actually show that you've been successful with similar companies, which, as said before, will have a big impact on the decision of a company. A good thing is to make clear how you work, because the more transparent you are there, the more trust you will create. And what we used to do at the company I worked at was also, we had this newsletter with some opinion pieces and content on specific topics and stuff. And then there was also a section in there that said, what are we working on? And we would highlight that we were doing, let's say, a patient portal for a big oncology company. You can imagine that when other oncology companies would read that, they would say, oh, these guys do that. We might be thinking about that. And it triggered in their minds that we would be perhaps then the good partner to work on that project with. So that's something I would also recommend. Then a harder step. That's something we're all struggling with, is in this day and age where everybody is already spammed, to get your foot in the door. The obvious channels, I think, for you guys is, and the ones that are already used, is sending emails and getting in touch on LinkedIn. It is getting harder and harder, though, because everybody's doing that. So the more you can go into sort of networking and the actual genuine non-salesy networking, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, or sharing content on LinkedIn, like it says in the second point, if you can stand out in that way, that will immediately have a much bigger effect. Or even better is to ask for referrals. Referrals are sort of the strongest introduction you can get. Ask for intros. To do the networking at live events, you always have a step ahead if you do the networking at live events versus online, or you could even complement it to do networking online, and then when you meet up at live events, then you seek out these people and make sure that you strengthen the connection. And as mentioned, when you select a location, you can also do local live meetups. Then you don't need to do a webinar like we're doing now. Then we could all sit together in a room and do this talk and have, again, a much more human connection. So offline still also rules there, I would say. Anything from you guys to add right now?
I think I would like to go more into the networking sides when we ask Damian a few questions, because I know they do a really great job on this part and on meetups and traveling to customers more, and also the LinkedIn videos that I see that Damian is doing. So we can get to that in the end. Just FYI, we have 5 more minutes for the presentation.
Okay, I'll go a bit faster. So this is a funny thing from Marketunist. This basically summarizes most of the LinkedIn requests you get in a day. Number 7 is someone you actually know. This doesn't happen often anymore, at least not in my LinkedIn requests. Yeah.
What I think that works really well at least for us, is definitely video, and definitely doing such webinars in which we can then chunk out the pieces from this webinar, and then later on also put it on LinkedIn. In that way, people see that we are expertise in the field of software houses, which brings us much more conversations. Because in the end, what we actually want with all these things is to start conversations, right? Because it's much easier. It's like in dating, right? Like it's easier to, if you're lucky, to be approached than to approach someone. Yeah,
for sure. So a few things you can do when you're actually reaching out. Like I said previously, already refer to a company they know. That works on me very well. If you say, oh, we already work for whatever other CRM company that I know, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Don't immediately sell. That's an immediate turnoff. If a message is salesy, people will archive or mark as spam or whatever. Try to offer value in the beginning. So that's the third point also. There's a few ways you can try to do that. You could, for instance, like I said before, we saw on G2 that your mobile app gets some bad rap. We checked it and we saw that there, if you already fixed this, it would be great. If you want, we can do a free checkup of your whole mobile app and suggest some things that you can check. We don't charge for it. And if you want to work with us afterwards, it's sort of offer something first before you say, okay, we do mobile development. And then the last point, I'll have a funny one on the next slide. Use great English. If you or if you're French or whatever, if you feel that the communication is not going to go well because the other party doesn't speak the language well, then that's also an immediate turn off. Here is someone sending a message in Polish to Mick. Mick is British, and he answers in English, and the software house of, I don't know exactly, I cannot read it, says Polish please, and he says, why would I write to you in Polish? I'm not Polish. And then I think the guy says, I don't speak English, but I think you guys understand better what's written here. Then also, if you do reach out, personalize properly. This is really the basics of personalization. Inserting
these screenshots are not very visible, FYI. So
it's not very visible for you. So
it's
here
easier
it's
the presentation.
Yeah, it's a message to Brand24, and the guy left in the word talk walker in the email, which is immediately a fail. And then this message, he sends a message, and it ends with, if you're interested, I can pitch a topic, and if the topic interests you, I will start writing the content. And then he inserts a GIF that says nope. I mean, this person must have read somewhere that GIFs give a high response rate, but you have to use the GIFs in the right way, obviously. So don't just use things that should work just for the sake of them. Actually think about what it will trigger with the customer. And this is a funny example as well. If you're reaching out with multiple people to companies, make sure that you split your lead lists correctly. Don't approach the same company twice. And if you do, in this case, Mick got approached twice by the same company, and they offer different prices. The one person offers at $350 per month, and the other one at $499 per month. That's even worse than just contacting with two people. Is contacting with different offers. Now, when you got this far, so you're actually in touch with people, you got your foot in the door, they're interested, then you obviously don't want to lose out on the leads. Then it's all about closing them. In closing leads, follow-up is the most important thing. You need to keep following up. Most of the deals are not closed on the first message. it will take you, according to these stats, 5 to 12 contacts to actually close a deal. So if you're not properly organized for this, you will fail. This is a guy who is following up. He offers something, then the next day he says, response, please. This is not how you follow up. Obviously, follow up like you would expect to follow up with a friend, not with a robot or something. And then finally, when you get to the deal, it's about making a proposal that really focuses on them. So you listen very closely to their problem and make the proposal all about their problem, your solution, and how it goes step by step. Sort of make a roadmap timeline to show how it will all work, and focus on that, because the absolute like no-go is getting a proposal which shows 40 pages about what the company does and why the company is great, and does not focus on the customer's need. When I get these kind of things, and I know that they're not really putting effort in us, and it will not come later either. So make sure you focus on the customer there, and make them an offer they can't resist. I have an extra suggestion here on the slide. And that's, for instance, when you do a review or a checkup, like I mentioned earlier, you could also do, instead of a free one, you could do a paid one. But you could make it become free if they hire you for your services. So you could say, I'm going to do a checkup of your mobile app. It costs you, I don't know, 300 euros, and I will show you everything that's wrong with it. And if you work with us in the end, the 300 euros will be voided. That's a possibility.
It's stupid. It's just lazy comment that doesn't put any value into the conversation. But if you have something smart to say, just comment the blog post in a nice way, tag the person, and start the conversation with the person around that topic. So the person can perceive you as an interesting, intelligent guy, so or the girl, someone who is a good person to chat with. So then you start the conversation around the topic. And at the end of the day, anyway, he will go to your profile and see who you are, what is your offer. And if he's in a need, he will anyway ask you for your proposal or something. So this is one way. You engage with the content of your personas, if they have the content. If they don't have the content, give them some value, some insights. Maybe there are some good reports from the market they are in. So this is the second one, give something. The third one, which I use quite often, is ask them for their opinion or help. People are quite willing to share their stories. And in my case, I was asking around 500 CTOs from Nordics about their top challenge in being CTO. And based on that, I created an ebook, and I already had first, prospects who are distributing the ebook, and they're willing to download the ebook. Then on top of that, I had my marketing campaigns on LinkedIn. I could trigger the same group, so people who are similar to those guys, and it was purely inbound marketing. So basically, I gave them some free ebook about the challenges, and they downloaded the ebook, and based on that, I was able to talk to prospects, and it was quite nice because they've already know me a little bit, because in the ebook there was some video, so they could see me as a person, what am I representing, and that I'm real, I speak English and so on. So the interaction with them was quite positive. Of course, I cannot just tell them, guys, thank you for getting my ebook. Now here is my offer. No, it doesn't work that way. So because this is something really annoying when someone accepts your invitation and the second message is about your services or something. But you should go deeper into the conversation, try to be relevant, ask something about their current challenge in the position, maybe about the company they are in, or maybe about the experience in the specific area. If you see that they've downloaded your ebook or they've read your article about some hiring issues, you might just ask them, how about you? What is your biggest pain in the hiring process? Or how is it in Stockholm or Oslo? Is it easy or hard to find developers. And then usually they are willing to reply to that. So you start the conversation. Or for example, a few minutes ago, I just checked on my mobile. I've just received a message. I will just quote the message from the guy from Copenhagen. He said, "Hey, your profile hints at you are being able to find good software developers. How do you do that?" It's simple like that, because the description of my profile states this way. So the guy is asking me for that, so I need to reply for that hotly, maybe. But anyway, it has to be very natural, conversational. It's not about you telling them what is in your offer. It's about them asking you about your help. So you start the conversation. You try to be this friendly Spider-Man from the neighborhood, and also the smart guy, because it's easy to be another guy sending the automated message on LinkedIn. You want to be friendly guy. You want to be somehow who has something smart to say, to share, or to ask. And then you start building the relationship or the trust. And most of the people, they aren't anyway ready to buy your stuff. So it doesn't make sense to send them your menu of developers. They will just treat you as another sales guy. You just wait. So you follow up after a few months maybe, or after a few weeks, depends on the activity on the LinkedIn. Or what you can do, you can engage that person, the prospect, asking them for running an interview on your blog or something like that. So they get more emotional, they like you. And then after all, if you fly to Oslo, Stockholm, where I used to go right now in Copenhagen, you just invite them for a coffee. And this is everything. So at some point, you are in the top of mind. So if they think about software development, they think, oh, this is the guy. I like this guy. We had a really good chat. And he is the first person I will ask, of course. So that's the thing. And it's not easy because, first of all, they have plenty of interactions and contacts in their own network, currently existing ones. So you are, unfortunately, as a software house, at the end of this chain. Or so I guess your role is really to build your position in someone's head. So if I, for example, I'm the guy from Stockholm looking for Python developers, I think STX Next from Poland, the best guys. They have clients from Stockholm. I will call them in the first line. So I'm not promoting STX Next, by the way. So it's just an example.
That takes me to the next question. Like, what is that? How do you compete with these big guys that are in the market? Actually, like meaning big guys, the big software houses that are in the market, because I suppose they have an army of
exactly
sales guys and developers and so on and so forth. They can have different services. Also, the power to reach out is totally different, and you are a smaller software house. So how do you compete with these big guys?
So you've said one interesting word, which is army. They are armies. We try to position ourselves as a SWAT team, so special mission, rescue missions, where we are more flexible. And if we compete with these guys, we can compete by culture, for example. Because if the person is comparing only profiles of the developers, again, it's a marketplace. It's hard to win the client based on profiles only. Maybe on the expertise side. So if you have some good blockchain developers, and the big guys, they have everyone in one basket. They will pick you because you are the blockchain expert, something like that, as a company. So you position yourself as a blockchain one, and you have more you have more clients in the blockchain area than those big guys. That's one thing. So, and the second thing is about, again, the culture. I see it plenty of times that people from Nordic, they don't choose Polish developer houses, software houses, because they don't feel that this is the culture they expect. So if you think about the Nordic culture, it's more about family culture, closeness, being friendly to each other, and keeping small teams sometimes. So they prefer to have a smaller partner than the bigger one. So I guess that's the thing. And the rest is about, I guess, chemistry, because unfortunately, the B2B business in software development is based on trust. So people need to like each other. Somehow you don't buy the product from the shelf like in Jeroen case. It's about the product. So you have parameters, and of course you would love to have great customer support and make sure that it works as it should. But at the end of the day, you compare it with different CRMs if it fits your criteria or not. With software companies, you're not able to compare 20 of them in details, because then you have to compare motivation, you have to compare, again, the cultural stuff, their performance, their I guess what kind of human they are. Yeah, if you like them or
how
not.
they sink into the organizational culture, right?
Exactly. So this is, I think, the most difficult part for the client, to have the cultural fit as well. So
yeah, in the end, this is how we do it also, because we have a very small team, we're a boutique growth marketing agency, and what we see is that clients like us mainly because we have the expertise in the software house business, but also that we can easily fit in and be agile within their organization. Simple as that. And we can easily understand what they do. We can fastly move. So based on their needs, we don't have endless onboarding processes, or I don't know, complicated things to do. So thanks a lot for this answer. So it's very interesting question that I got from also from the book that Jeroen shared, the book from April Dunford. It's more around how does the type of clients you take at the very early stage of your software house life affect the future positioning?
I guess a lot, because if you start with unsustainable startup and they will be weak in product management, you will be building some shitty software. Like let's be honest. And on the other hand, if you have a really strong corporation or an enterprise company that have existing markets, clients, and you can go live very fast with your product, and you can also learn agile in such organization, you will learn way more. Plus, if you have, I don't know, let's say Lego or someone as a first client, it will bring more attention to you later on, because you gain credibility and accountability by having this first strong client. And if you have unknown brands out of nowhere, first of all, they might not go live, they might not have clients, and you will be still digging into the startup scene, or some small little companies can be your clients. They can pay for your service for 6 months, maybe 12 months, but then they might disappear. And I guess bigger clients or middle-sized clients who already have existing business and just need more digitalization, they are way more interesting for the software company to start, because then you can become their tech partners long-term as well. So.
Got it. Cool. Thanks. Jeroen, you have any questions at this point?
No, not really.
We have a question more around how like you mentioned, Jeroen, that sending a proposal which specifically answers the problems of the client. Yeah. Can you a bit elaborate on that, and maybe also Damian, if you have ideas on this side?
Yeah. Well, first, good thing always is to hook people in, I think. So you write an introduction which summarizes everything, sort of like an executive summary. We are this company, we're really great at solving this. You have this issue, we propose to solve it like this, and we're gonna do. You basically summarize the whole document, so that you're sure that people get the picture. I think that's really important. You start off with that. Then you, in the next step in the proposal, I would focus on their issue. So your issue is this. This is the solution we suggest. We're gonna go about it like this. You could already sort of give a high-level approach to solving it somehow. It depends on what we're exactly talking about here, of course. Then you make a timeline of if we start then we can have this then, and this then, and this then. I mean, probably typically in the projects you do, you have a sort of timeline like that. Then you state what they would get, sort of the deliverables. here it very much depends on the basis on which you're selling, how you want to present this. But it's very good to understand for people what are they getting for their money. You specify in the same sort of stretch also how much that will cost and why, and maybe specify a few things like this is what's included and this is what's not included. Like for instance, if there's design included, there's 2 rounds of review and there's not 7 or something. To make sure you're kind of covered there. And at the end, you could again, it's a bit of a pickle, but don't talk too much about yourself, but at least show why you're the right company to solve it. So show what your company focuses on, testimonial or so, say, okay, these guys worked with us and they're happy. To also sort of get them convinced that everything you said now, that it's going to be real as well, that they can trust that this is what's going to happen. That's how I would build it up.
Cool, thanks. Anything to add to this, Damian, at this point?
No, I guess Jeroen covered most of that. I guess you just need to think about the risk that client have, because they usually, when they make a decision of hiring external software development team, if they wouldn't have to, they wouldn't do it. They just like it's risky for them. They spend money, it costs them. So if you can convince them that picking you as a tech partner, it's safe and will make the client secure, and we will address his issues and risks, you should include it into the proposal. So for example, the different case is if you have team extensions. For example, we need 3 more developers because we need to deliver this product in 3 months. So you have to convince them that your developers are productive, fast, and they will hit the deadline. That's one thing. But then if you have the CEO without the tech team and he's looking for a full tech team, he has completely different needs to be addressed. So in this case, he will need more about the product partner, someone who will convince him that our way of building products will help your business grow. And he won't be that specified about the technology stack and about the performance. He will be more about the safety issues. If you can convince him that you are the right team to create a product for him that will grow his business. So.
Cool. And I think this also answered Kamil's question on how to create that unique selling proposals, focusing more on technology or more on product development, right?
Yeah, that's the question from Kamil. I guess, Kamil, to answer your question, different personas have different needs. You need to have different communications for different people, different for the CEO, different from the CTO. So for example, it's quite common right now on the software houses website that you have we have the menu for CTO. There's one landing page that is written specifically for the CTO to address their needs, to invite them to get my ebook, to invite them for our webinar, just to get in touch. But this is for CTO. It's more technical. It's more about team extension. And for CEO, we have different communications, different ads, different language actually. Yeah.
Cool. I have a last question for you, Damian. What's like the number one advice for software houses when it comes to positioning at this point?
Be human.
The last question for
yeah,
the one stage here to
I guess
have the goal from it.
I know this is a difficult one because when we started Soda, the first of our thought was that most of the software houses in Poland are very similar. So if there won't be differentiation, they will die. They still haven't died because there is still a high demand for software houses services. But I guess the companies, the software houses that will position themselves in certain areas or certain tech stacks will win the game, because then we'll be able to charge more for the services. They will be more experienced and they will deliver more value to the end client. So I guess in terms of positioning, it's all about find the super nice client that you really love maybe from your existing clients or maybe a new one, and try to build your unique selling point around that client. So you will be expert in his niche or industry, and then it will be easier for you to trigger another clients from this niche. Like if you're in the industry space, you have the second biggest industry player in Poland as a client. It will be way easier to get to the first one, to the third one, fourth one, to help them build some online products, that instead of going to different industries, because they already know each other. If you have done the great job for the first client, the huge one, I think he will easily make the intro to another clients in this space. So I think that the hardest part for software houses in terms of positioning is to make a choice what to focus on, because they usually go with the flow. They have lead, they just take it. If they are willing to win the client, or they think that it might happen, they just take it. And then suddenly after a few years, they have a bunch of different clients from different industries, and there's no focus at all. That's why they are sending thousands or millions of cold emails to different CTOs from different industries. Maybe one fish will catch this, and they believe that. I don't know if that's a good strategy. It still takes a lot of time and energy to pick the right times and the right prospects. So
cool. Thanks a lot for this. Like, I will cut this part and I'll also put it on LinkedIn for sure, because it's very good content. Guys, that was all about it. Thanks for joining, and for the guys who stayed till now, because I saw that people are dropping out. I know the whole webinar went a bit longer than expected. We are testing something out. We are testing, we actually did a mentorship program in Man Digital, and for software houses especially. I will just drop the link. But the idea is that what we want to do is not only just do a course, but also bring in mentors. So I bring in around 7 mentors from the industry. And in these 6 weeks of different modules, we will also do one-to-one mentorship with the software houses. Plus, we share all the workflows, all the templates that we are using with our clients. So that means that we have 6 modules of mentorship course. We have 7 different guest speakers. These are from Google, from live chat, from different other software houses. So guys, if you're interested, we still didn't launch it. You can just subscribe. You have also the button here, and I will just put the link also. So let me know if you would be interested. We are heavily discounting because we need like beta testers, let's say. And obviously for a testimonial if this course is something that you guys need. So I just dropped the link also here. You have also the button. Thanks a lot. See you in 3 weeks. We will have a webinar with Bart. He's the head of growth from Tech Venue. They do some amazing things when it comes to customer acquisition and retention. And we will go deep into how to actually get traffic and how to keep the customers, how to do lead nurturing, so on and so forth. He was working for Ladder.io, which is one of the biggest growth marketing agencies actually worldwide, who worked with a lot of big companies from Y Combinator. So I'm really glad to have him there. Learn.man.digital.com. There is all the webinars that we are having. Peace and out. Take care, guys. Thanks a lot, Damian. Thanks a lot, Jeroen, for the great conversations. Bye, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
thank you.